Arsenal will return to the Champions League once again. But first, they've got a match against Brighton, which they need to overcome. And hopefully, this channel can overcome some form of technical problem that just won't stop plaguing us. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal preview show. I'm joined by three exceptionally patient guests today who have been sitting with me for the last 40 minutes while I sort out my life problems, i.e. my silly technology, which still is having a problem with stuff. I unfortunately won't have the usual microphone that you're used to. It's going to be like this. This is the audio that it's going to be for just this episode until tomorrow. If I haven't smashed a laptop at that point, I'm going to call it a successful day. So we're going to move into today's preview, but this is going to be the audio quality from my end. But you've got three fantastic audio qualities coming to you. First of all, Tom, how you doing, mate? You good? You well? Good to see you joining us for your first preview show.
Thanks. It's a privilege. And I have. Yeah, it is. And I have to be honest. It's my first, and I actually just joined the member as about 4 days ago, just for this, just for that. I mean, I've been following
just to
you
be absolutely let down by all of my stuff.
Hopefully next in future podcasts it will be better, but just for the fun of listening to you and actually talking to you, you know. So I mean, I've been following you for quite a lot, so it's a privilege.
That's very kind.
And I got my glowing bottle.
Oh yes, the glowing water bottle. Yes. Very good. I still need to get. I looked at those. They are insanely expensive for what they are.
Yeah, it is quite expensive.
But I do rate them exceptionally highly. We're also joined by Alex. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
I'm good. Yeah. Second preview show today, so I'm having a great time. And
oh yeah, where was the other preview show?
Just about.
Oh, of course. I don't know why I said that. Of course, yes, the other one that we did about 5 minutes ago that no one will ever see ever again. Because for those that did see it, and thank you, by the way, those that are being patient with us in the chat box and then joining us for this second edition, because the first one just stopped working. I need someone to explain to me, if anyone is a computer genius, because now on my other laptop, why the Wi-Fi clearly works, because we're here, the connection is fine, you can see me fine, the image is fine, but I can't use a microphone on this laptop because for some reason it turns me into Alvin the Chipmunk, as we all know, or a robot version of it, as we've all come to, the guys were listening to it as we were practicing before the show went live. And then on my other laptop, mic works perfectly, can hear me crystal clear, but for some reason, the internet doesn't work on that laptop. And even though it's plugged in, I feel like Tom's on the edge of his seat to give me an answer, but you can go for it if you want.
Well, I am a computer engineer, so I might have a suggestion. I mean, you said
what I'll take your suggestion from you after the show, Tom. I feel like what will happen is me and you will go back and forth about computers, and people have tuned in for a show about Arsenal, so we'll catch up afterwards on that. But thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. And finally, making his debut, and what a debut he's been waiting around for. It's Benny. How you doing, Benny?
Thank you, Tom. It's a privilege to be here. I have some suggestions in the chat. They keep saying stop visiting dodgy websites. So maybe that
that might be it. I mean, I've been going on to Harry Symeou's YouTube channel too much. That's clearly the problem. That's the dodgy websites that I've been visiting. But thank you to those joining us in the chat box. Really appreciate your time as always. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe, and a massive thank you to you for sticking with us as well. Let's jump to this game, which of course is Arsenal against Brighton at the Amex Stadium. Tom, how much of a danger is it that we focus too much on what happens in 4 days' time against Bayern and don't focus enough on this game?
Well, first of all, it is. I mean, as you said in the previous starting, that actually Brighton haven't lost at home since the beginning of the season, so it's definitely won't be an easy match. And I think we really have to be focused on that, to not get complacent, and hopefully we'll see a strong team for this game as a preparation for the Bayern Munich game, but also to not get complacent, because it will be very easy, even though our record there is pretty good compared to how we play against them at home. But Brighton are very mixed bag this year. They can get pummeled by Luton 4-0, but on the other end they can beat Tottenham or the best teams. So you have to be very, very prepared, and definitely it is obvious.
Absolutely. And they've got some good players. They are missing some. Solly March is injured. Cairo Matoma is also out. Ferguson missed the game in midweek as well, so he might not yet be available. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So, Alex, they are missing some key players, Brighton. But despite the fact that they've had that record that Tom touched upon, where they've not lost a game since I think it was the second or third game of the season at home to West Ham, they've still managed to take those points off big teams. But why hasn't it gone as well this season for Brighton as you think it did last year? Is it simple as no Caicedo and McAllister? Is that the difference?
I mean, it's a big part of it, I think. I also think the way in which they played relied very heavily on Caicedo, obviously not having Matoma and Ferguson for parts of the season doesn't help either. But I think Caicedo and McAllister are very difficult players to replace. And, Brighton have done relatively well in terms of signing players back. But you look at how they play as well, it's highly reliant on having that sort of high energy, high intensity players who are able to play with like that level of bravery that maybe you don't find in the same way. And there's a reason why Caicedo went for the amount of money he did, even if it hasn't quite gone right for him at Chelsea yet. But that there's a player there. you've seen it for Brighton certainly. But I think we can't underestimate them at all. Underestimate? Yeah, that is the right word. Sorry.
That's the word.
Yeah. Underestimate them at all. I think they can harm teams still. They've got players there who are very talented. They've got a lot of South American. What is it? Buonanotte. I would never be able to say it.
Buonanotte, yeah.
Buonanotte, who's good. Enciso, who I've watched play live quite a few times because he used to play against Bournemouth's under-21s and absolutely just.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he's very good as well. But there's quite a few within their team who can harm people still. But not having Matoma is a big loss. And
absolutely.
On which, as much as I like Matoma, I will quite happy he's missing it.
Indeed, yeah, I think we can all say that. Benny, Arteta had his press conference earlier today as well, and one of the things that he talked about and was asked about was Bukayo Saka. He said that we got one more training session because that's his catchphrase. That's what he always says whenever anyone asks him about any kind of update on the playing staff. But how much do you think that Bayern match will impact the selection? Because obviously we were able to rest quite a few players on Wednesday night. Declan Rice didn't start. Saka was completely ruled out. Martinelli only came off the bench. We started players like Trossard. Jesus didn't play a single minute either. Tomiyasu came on later in the game. Jorginho came on later in the game as well because Partey started. How much strength do you think we'll see? And do you think it could maybe be used as a bit of a practice run ahead of Bayern in some ways?
I think in Arteta's thoughts, or one of his things he says is we try and take every game, one game at a time. But I think it will be impossible for any coach not to kind of think about that Bayern game because it's just a few days away from Saturday. I think maybe if I was Arteta, and I'm not Arteta, thank goodness for that. But if I was Arteta, I would be looking to kind of do what we did against Luton similarly, whereas not play a weakened team, which we did play against Luton, but play a slightly stronger team. And then hopefully we go 1 or 2-0 up where we get comfortable and then start to make the changes, because obviously the outcome of this game is hugely influential to that Bayern game, because at the end of the day, we are at home. We need the advantage of having no Bayern supporters at home to also run up the score, try and run up the score in that match. So it's really it wouldn't be the forefront of his mind because it's very important that we need to concentrate on Brighton. We don't want to underestimate anyone, but as a coach, and that is why he's a coach, he will need to have a plan for this game, depending on how the Brighton game plays out.
No, you're absolutely right. I completely forgot about that fact about the Bayern won't have any, players in, fans in the stadium. That is going to be an interesting dynamic because I think sometimes, fans can feed off of the away fans in some ways. So I think there's an argument that maybe you've got to find the right balance. I'm already conscious of time, so I'm going to flick to the lineups that we've gone for. Alex, we're starting with yours. Talk us through your selection and your reasons as to why.
So the changes would be Tomiyasu as I'm not sure who I want to start for Bayern, but if it is going to be Tomiyasu, then I'd like him to get a few more solid minutes before coming back in. Bayern, I'm going to talk about Bayern. I know we should be talking about Brighton, but I think
trap game.
Yeah, I've still started with a very strong lineup, as you can see. I think Trossard would be really good for him to start and get some forwards. I think Martinelli, I want him to start against Bayern, and whether he comes on against Brighton at some point, that would be really good. Partey and Rice, again, I wouldn't mind seeing Jorginho come on. I think keeping Gabriel and Saliba as the partnership, I think they can play this many games. I think people are going to need to play this many games. And again, Saka is not starting for a similar reason that I'd like him to start against Bayern. But that's where we're at now in terms of, I don't think we need to start with it doesn't feel like a weakened side that much. Like, obviously, there's positions in there where you'd say, people who are on form, such as Saka and Jorginho. I mean, the argument can be out for Jorginho versus Partey, but on current form, Jorginho is in better form. He's played more. And then Martinelli is an interesting one because I actually think Trossard's probably our best finisher. So I don't really know where I stand on that on that side of things. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the game, but I don't think we can ignore Brighton at all. And I think when we come to play Bayern, we're going to need to have our best team available, and that means playing them and playing players and rotating players. I think that what we have at the moment is that sort of catch-22 where you don't want to play players in case they get injured, but if you don't play players at all, then they come into matches not being sharp. So it's you can't just say, oh, I'm not going to play them because then they won't get injured, because they could get injured in the first minute of the game when they come on against Bayern. So
yeah, no, exactly, 100%. Trossard, do you think is going to be the key man though? Like, because he's got a lot of stick recently. Not a lot of stick. That's probably harsh. He's had some scrutiny for his performances, and I think he was scrutinised a little bit actually quite a lot against Porto, even though he scored. But it was the fact that he gets into those positions. If you get him into those places, he can be so ruthless. So, is it a case of you start Trossard in a game against Brighton because there's obviously the narrative there as well, or is it in any way inclined to build up that momentum going into what could be a performance against Bayern as well, depending on Saka and Martinelli's fitness as well?
I certainly think he has the ability to do that, to get us a goal, and we certainly, I don't think we've struggled. We've put them around, we've spread goals around the team a fair amount. We certainly haven't struggled to score in that many of our games, as far as I'm concerned. But I think he's such a good player when he's on form and firing. And yeah, I mean, you look at the City game and you just say, oh, if only he'd played that ball first time to Martinelli. But hey, it's done now, and we got a point, and I'm very happy with that. So I think he needs game time, and he needs form going into it, like you say. And we've got what you might consider to be 8, 9, 10 cup finals in a row coming up, where we're just going to have to try and grind out a result for every game, and there's going to be times when we're rough and we've got to rotate, and that's just the nature of when you're in a title race.
Yeah, it is the reality of the situation. Like, we talk about, we need to take players out here, rest players, rotate players. But the biggest and the best players in the world do play 50 to 60 games a season quite often. You see it happen. And it is the reality. And there are too many games. There absolutely are too many matches that players have to play on a calendar year with the internationals. They should absolutely be losing one of those international breaks. The European Championships and World Cup should be restructured, in my view, the qualification process, so you don't have to have playoffs, which create this extra round of fixtures. There could be an extra week off. It could be an extended winter break. But they don't, because the more matches means more minutes, means more TV, means more broadcast, so more money is always the way, and money seems to rule the world in regards to football, and player welfare doesn't, sadly, seem to factor in as much. Ben, talk us through your team, mate.
So I've gone for an interesting one, but similar to what Alex done. I am going to bring Kivior back in just because I don't think he's done much to get dropped. I know it was the Luton game where he didn't start was more to give him a rest, and I could see that because before that he had a really competitive game for Poland, 2 competitive games for Poland. So I understand why Arteta didn't want to play him against Luton, but I think against Brighton he hasn't done anything wrong. He's been very consistent. I think you start him and then have Tomiyasu or Zinchenko on the bench. Now for the midfield, I've gone with a strong midfield. Odegaard, Rice, and Partey. Brighton do have their midfield is all right. They have some really young guys. They're going to be really quick, and this is why I probably wouldn't have Jorginho there. And then obviously the glaring miss is Havertz. And I think here he might need a rest. And this is the time I would rather Havertz go against Upamecano in the Bayern match. I would rather have a fully fit Havertz for the Bayern match than have somebody that's I've given 90 minutes in this match. I feel we could still be able to get something out of it with Jesus. It's kind of like a 50-50. I wouldn't be mad if somebody complained that, okay, you don't have Havertz in the squad.
Yeah, I think the Havertz one is interesting because he didn't have an amazing game against Luton. Neither did anyone really. He did set up the goal for Odegaard, but outside of that, there wasn't standout performances besides the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe, who was energetic. And in some ways, it's interesting. None of us have picked Smith-Rowe. I'm giving a little bit away of Tom of your lineup, but none of us have pick Smith-Rowe, despite the fact that he had a man of the match display. I mean, it's interesting what that says, Ben, about his future, maybe.
Yes, I actually was listening to somebody. I can't remember on another Arsenal podcast.
There's other Arsenal podcasts. What?
Yeah, sorry, another Arsenal TV. I'm sure.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I listened to quite a few of them, and they were quite what they were actually saying the same thing. Whether maybe it's Smith-Rowe's time, even though he did get a man of the match performance against Luton. I do appreciate what Smith-Rowe has done, and he has been here for a while. But in my opinion, I don't think he's ideally in my lineup, and I'm sure in everybody's lineup, we would like to give Odegaard much of a rest. But unfortunately, we still can't trust Smith-Rowe with the Odegaard responsibilities in such a crucial game, because we need to win every game. We need to win every match. And ideally, in these kind of cases, you would have Smith-Rowe on the bench. Maybe we're up 2-3-0, and then we can take one of the midfielders off and bring Smith-Rowe in. Now, I would like to be in a situation where I could be like, okay, Odegaard, I need you really for the Bayern match. I would rather play Smith-Rowe. And unfortunately, I don't think Smith-Rowe has gotten to that level yet. He has been there before. He has been there at that, but that was before the injury. And after the injury,
and it wasn't as a number 10 either, to be fair.
And I understand it's a game he did do a good against Luton, but if we take that game in isolation, it was just Luton.
No, it's fair enough. That is absolutely fair enough. And lastly, we've got Tom's lineup to round us out. Talk us through this one, mate.
Well, first of all, this this lineup is kind of, you know, we've spoken about I know we're not supposed to speak about Bayern, but it is kind of an idea.
All we've done is speak
of
about Bayern.
yeah, it's in my where I see the lineup is for Bayern Munich. I do see the lineup nearly as this, and I will explain. The only thing that so the defense is obviously as strong as I think is possible. Kivio, I mean, deserves to keep his place. I know Tomiyasu is not 100% fit, and I think Kivio, as people said, he hasn't done anything wrong to be dropped. So I think he deserves to play now and to play at Bayern against Bayern. Obviously, the attack, the Saka, Martinelli, Jesus. And I think Jesus will be very crucial, not only for this game, is actually for the Bayern Munich game, because a lot of people suggested, and I think you suggested as well, Tom, that during the Porto game, we kind of missed the ability of Jesus to take the ball and make something happen. And I think his trickery, as we've seen against City, which is actually quite good. I mean, the only thing, you know, people, I mean, I would say that he didn't do enough is putting the ball in the net. But other than that, his trickery, his running it was actually quite good, even against City. So I think he'll be very important as well against Bayern Munich, and that's why I think it's very important for him to play at the Brighton game and get a good game to get his confidence, because he's a very confident type of player. He needs this confidence to be prepared. Now, the only thing that I was thinking about is the midfield, because I was going to go as well as Benny and Alex midfield and put Partey in to have the Partey, Odegaard, Rice, which I think it's the midfield that everybody wants, you know, to see since day one, which we barely had, unfortunately, for injury reasons. But the only reason I didn't put Partey first is because I think that since he played nearly, 60 minutes against Luton, and I do think that he should maybe start against Bayern Munich, I think he should get some. He should be coming from the bench. So, in my view, is that we'll have the Odegaard, Rice, Partey midfield, but during the game, not from the start of it. And so that's why I actually decided to pick Havertz, because I don't think we really need Jorginho to this game. I know usually we put Jorginho, Rice, Odegaard when we need to have a bit more control, like in the big games against Liverpool and City, and obviously we had a few smaller games that we did use Jorginho, but it's only because we didn't have Jesus, so we had to put Havertz as a forward. And I know you don't like the whole Havertz midfield experience, but I still quite like the idea of Havertz in the midfield. I think he had a lot, especially now that he's getting more clicked and his movement is getting better and he's getting more connect. And I think now that with his physicality and his ability to join the attack behind Jesus and be as the second striker or the shadow striker, I think he adds a lot. And he actually scored against Brighton in the previous in the reverse fixture. So I think he'll have the ability to really help us, especially against that. And as I said, I don't think we need that midfield that will need more holding of the ball. I think will be a very more offensive against Brighton, because they play very offensive style. So they don't really work on holding the ball in the midfields.
No, they're not a low block side at all, and they will try and attack Arsenal, which will open up spaces, and you'd hope gives us the opportunities that we need to take advantage of. In terms of my team, I've only got one little change from some of the other guys. I did go with Jorginho just because I thought having more ball meant that Jorginho would have more of an influence on this game to pull the strings. But I absolutely understand why others have gone with the likes of Partey. In the case of Thomas, gone with Havertz in the midfield. We are going to be able to attack the opposition more. I like Rice playing slightly advanced. I think against sides where we have more of the ball, he does really well to get into the box, and he's becoming a really threatening player, in and around the box as well. I've gone with Jesus, Saka, and Martinelli. I've given Havertz a rest, mainly because Havertz is on this kind of weird yellow card situation. He's on 8. If he gets booked in this game, it's like we can't use him in that 10th game, because if he gets booked if he gets booked against Villa after getting booked against Brighton, if it happened, he would miss 2 games. So it's kind of created this.
That's what actually was. I forgot. I was about to ask it when Benny came up, but I wasn't sure if he's actually is already suspended or is nearly suspended.
No. He needs 2 more yellows, and they have to come in the next 2 games to get his 2 match back. There's been huge misconceptions about this thing, which is why I was really surprised I got so much stick when I wrote an article explaining literally everything that needed to be said about this. He needs to get booked against Luton, Brighton, and Villa for him to receive a 2-game ban. I mean, it's been so misconstrued that even Arteta got asked in his press conference after the game against Luton about the suspension, because people seem to think that it's that this situation has happened where he's going to get banned. But he's on 8 Premier League yellow cards. If he gets 10 before the Aston Villa game is done, he will get a 2-match ban. After Villa, they get wiped. So it doesn't matter how many yellow cards you get, I think, up until that point. But yeah, and as far as I'm aware, the yellow card he got in the Community Shield does not matter. I know he got booked in that game, but as far as I'm aware, that doesn't carry over. It certainly didn't when I checked the rules on it before, unless that has changed. But yeah, that's the situation with that. The rest of the team is Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, Rice, Odegaard, Jorginho, Kivior, Gabriel, Saliba, White, and Raya. With Saka, my star man, if he's fit. It'd be great to see him have a fantastic game leading into that match against Bayern. I love in the chat box people are saying that this has basically become the Arsenal Bayern Munich preview show at this stage, because we've mentioned it so much. But it is a huge fixture on the horizon. Let's talk about predictions for Arsenal against Brighton. Just want to make that clear so we know what we're providing the prediction for. Tom, scoreline and scorers, please.
I think it's going to be a 2-0, very similar to Luton. I think it will be very quick. I mean, we score very quickly, and then we kind of slow the game down and basically kill it off and make it turn into the ball fest. So I since I put Jesus as my main guy, so I think he'll score 1, and hopefully Saka, because especially because Cole Palmer and Foden has been scoring a bit, and this crazy who's the world class, and I was hoping to Saka to get a bit of a GA to kind of compete with them. So so at least he gets an assist and a goal. So yeah, hopefully.
Alex,
I'm going to go 3-0 to Arsenal. I'm going to go Trossard. I'm going to go for Saliba. And I'm going to go for Declan Rice.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Benny, finish this off, mate.
I will also go with 2-0. I think it will be kind of almost a carbon copy of what we did against Luton, where we get the early goals and kind of just kill the game off by just keeping the ball after for so and so minutes. So, and I will go with Trossard and Martinelli.
Lovely stuff. All positivity, which is nice, and lots of positive predictions as well in the chat box as well from some of you guys and girls. Also, I'm going to go with a 4. Can I go 4? I'm going to be all optimistic today. I need to offset the negativity coming out of the technology in this study. So I'm going to go 4-0 and go with goals from Gabriel Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, and we haven't got Kai to do our TGT prediction. I suppose he could come off the bench and score a screamer. So yeah, Kai have a screamer from the bench as well to create those 4. So that's what I'm going to go with. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I have to say, and please do show my guests plenty of love in the chat box, people, because they've been exceptionally patient with me whilst we've been trying to work out these issues. Tom, thank you for your time, mate. Appreciate it. And a fantastic debut on the preview show.
Thank you very much.
Tell people they can find you.
Well, I mean, I don't have any YouTube channel or anything, so I'm myself. Maybe I'll start off since that, but I don't have any YouTube, so
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's your first preview show, and so therefore you don't necessarily have got into the shape of how we go with the end of it. Alex is going to show you now. Alex, where can people find Tom and yourself? You're on mute. No, it was the timing of that was excellent.
That is the first time I've ever done that,
I don't know. I think it might have happened before.
Well, we won't remember it, so it's fine.
True.
We can find. You can find. Oh, I've fully messed it up.
It's fine. You can
find us
start
on the
again.
Discord server. Yeah, I've had a nightmare. There you go. Started like it finished. No.
Shall we let Benny try? We'll go third time lucky. Benny, where can people find yourself, Alex, and Tom?
You can find us on the TGT Discord server.
There it is. We got there in the
Sign
end.
up via YouTube for your membership.
Oh, that's very kind of you. And see, Tom, now you know. Now you know for next time.
Okay, I was actually thinking about saying that I'm on the TGT, but I wasn't sure if that counts as where you can find me.
Of course it counts. It's free advertisement, isn't it? Of course it counts. No, Alex, Tom, Benny, absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate all three of you jumping on and giving us plenty of insight on the game and your thoughts ahead of it as well. Make sure you go and say hello to them if you are in our Discord server and send them all the thanks that you can. If you're not, you can still thank them in the comment section down below as well. Please do drop a like on the video. I'm hoping by tomorrow morning, and I know I've been saying this over and over again, but I'm hoping by the next show there might be some improvements to the infrastructure. But until then, you might have to deal with this, which is not too bad, to be fair. But thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to break down Mikel Arteta's press conference and look ahead to the day's game against Brighton. You can go back and watch my chat with Elliot, in which there is some pretty good audio quality from both of us as quite, seasoned podcasters. You can go and listen to that. And there's plenty more to come. So have a fantastic evening, day, afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. Stay safe, well, happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.